Now that you have seen part 3 of the application process video, we are going to discuss proofs, affidavits, and title updates. I'm Kyle Turnbow. I'm one of the applications and records engineers here at the division, and I'm going to help you navigate through this. So, first, just a little roadmap of where we're heading with this. We're going to discuss the proof of beneficial use, the affidavit of beneficial use, and then we'll move over to title and talk about a record of conveyance and deed addendums. So perfecting the water right and the submitting of proof is kind of the last and final step in perfecting your water right. So a lot of people ask, well, when can I submit proof? And the answer is pretty simple. It's anytime the project is complete. When you're issued an OSE, or an order of the state engineer, it will have a proof due date on it, which is typically 5 years after the application is approved. But you don't have to wait until that date to submit your proof. If you have your whole project done within a year, you can submit proof. There's no penalty for submitting the proof early, and you don't have to wait for the proof due date, and you definitely don't have to wait for our 60-day proof due notice. So now the proof of beneficial use is submitted on applications to appropriate change or exchange water. The forms for preparing the proof can be found on the division's website, or you can come into the division and pick them up in person, or sometimes you can even call and we can send them out by mail. The proof must be prepared by a professional, either a professional engineer or land surveyor that's licensed in the state of Utah. And they will be responsible for the accuracy in depicting what the proof is actually reflecting. And this includes surveying the point of diversion and place of use, and preparing a map depicting the attributes of the water right. A flow measurement at the point of diversion is also required, and just to ensure that there's enough water actually available for the claimed uses. And the use of a professional lends credibility to the proof document and ensures that all the forms and documents are filled out correctly. So once the proof form is submitted to our office, the regional engineer for the area the water right's in their staff will review the proof, and we review it for complete data, for all the signatures that are required on there, and we review the uses for compliance with the original application. If the proof is acceptable, a draft certificate will be issued, and then the regional office sends the completed draft certificate over to the Applications and Records Department, where it receives a final review and then goes to the state engineer for signature. If it is unacceptable, if there's any missing data or any issues we find with it, first and foremost, we always try and work through those issues with the proof professional that submitted it and with the applicant, and get those corrections fixed. Sometimes, if the proof is significantly different than what the original application was for, we will have to do a change application on that water right, and then it'll have to go through the whole application process again and have proof submitted at the end of that process. So there's a subset of applications that do not require a proof professional to prepare, and these are called an affidavit of beneficial use. Or these are called small domestic water right, and you can submit an affidavit of beneficial use on them. So you might be asking yourself now, what is a small domestic water right? Well, a small domestic water right is one that has one domestic resident on it, up to a quarter acre of irrigation or less, and up to 10 livestock or less. In its simplest form, as the name implies, a small domestic water right has, at the bare minimum, one domestic unit on it. So, and these can be submitted by the water right owner, again, without the use of a proof professional. You can use the online affidavit tool to help streamline the process. There are a few things that are required. We need a certificate of occupancy, and if your municipality does not issue a certificate of occupancy or did not issue a certificate of occupancy during the time your house was built, we can also accept a tax notice showing the residential use or a letter from the municipality stating that a house was built there prior to the time proof was due. Then you have to fill out the Affidavit of Beneficial Use Water form, which can be found on our website. You will be required to have a plat map of your parcel. This requirement is waived if you're using the online affidavit tool. And then you'll also have to have a map of beneficial use, which is basically a map of your property showing us where the uses are occurring on it and where the well or point of diversion is. So this is what the proof of affidavit form looks like if you are not using the online affidavit tool. So this would be everything you'd have to fill out. And here's an example of the proof affidavit map if you were going to be filling it out by hand. You'd have to hand draw a map showing the boundaries of your land parcel, your house location, the areas where the irrigation is occurring, the livestock watering troughs and any grazing areas, your outbuildings, walkways, driveways, and any other non-irrigated areas, your well location with a distance from 2 of your property corners, and a north arrow and a legend. So conversely, if you're using the online affidavit tool to create your map of beneficial use, you'll get a beautiful map generated like this that has the aerial imagery already behind it, shows a picture of your house, and will show your entire property, exactly where you have your water put to use. The program will walk you through the map making process, and we've made it as easy as we can. It'll ask you to select your parcel, and then it will have you highlight exactly where you're doing your watering. It'll have you drop place markers where your well is located at, and then place markers as to where any of your irrigation troughs are for your livestock. And then it will combine all that together and generate a proof affidavit map. And the nice thing about these is it's nice and easy for our staff to review because it has the current aerial photography behind it. If we need to go do a field review of it, it's easy to see exactly where everything is, and we can maximize both our time and minimize the amount of time that we have your proof in the processing and review stage. So here's some of the frequently asked questions that we get on proofs. Probably the most common one is, what happens to my proof once filed? And if it's acceptably complete, they will get through the review process fairly quickly and easily, and will receive a certificate of beneficial use signed by the state engineer, and a copy of that will be mailed to you, as well as a copy placed on your water right file. If it's unacceptable, you will be contacted for additional information and clarification. We will do everything we can to try and get your proof to an acceptable status and offer the solutions you need to get your water right certificated. Next question is, do I have to fill out an affidavit myself? And the simple answer to this is no. If you don't feel comfortable filling out an affidavit yourself, you can hire a proof professional to help you file it. And what if I can't get a certificate of occupancy? This is definitely a question we get all the time. If your municipality doesn't issue or didn't issue a certificate of occupancy at the time your house was built, we will accept tax records showing the residence is being taxed as residential, or a letter from the municipality stating that your house was built prior to your proof due. Who needs to sign the affidavit? So all owners listed on the water right and the Division of Water Rights database need to sign the affidavit. If you and your wife are both listed as owners on the water right, you'll both have to sign it. And then additionally, if your water right is based on shares of stock in an irrigation company, the irrigation company also needs to sign the proof, because they are still the owner of the base water right that your shares are based on. What do I need to do after receiving my certificate? Basically just continue using the water as you have been and for the uses that you submitted your proof on. If you want to change any of your uses of water, then you can submit a change application and we can easily get you going in the process again to have new uses on that water. So now we're going to change gears a little bit here and switch over to water right title and talk about updating ownership. So how water right conveyance works. Water rights are transferred by deed in essentially the same manner as real estate. They're either transferred by land deed or water deed. Appurtenant water rights transfer silently with the land. And this is one of probably the most misinterpreted areas of water transfer. If the water rights are not mentioned in the land deed, then they transfer with that land to the new owner, not the opposite of that. It seems most people think that, oh, if I don't mention the water rights, I am keeping those myself, so I'm not going to mention them on the land deed. And unfortunately, if you do that, you actually transferred, by not mentioning anything about the water rights, you've actually transferred them silently with the land. So the deed conveying water rights must be recorded both in the county where the water is used and in the county where the water is diverted if they're different. If they're both happening in the same county, then it just needs to be recorded in the one county. So water right record keeping. So the county recorder office is the official recorder for all deeds. And the records maintained by the county recorder are deeds, which are also conveyance of water rights, certificate of beneficial use once they're recorded, an index of water deeds, and assignments, which are transfers of unapproved or unperfected water rights. Now, the Division of Water Rights does not have a direct link with the county recorder's office. We rely on them sending us the information. So the records maintained by the state engineer are water right application data, certificate of beneficial uses, use records, the owner of records, which the owner of record is whoever submitted the original application, if a ROC or a record of conveyance has never been received. If a record of conveyance has been received, the owner of records on our database will be the last person to submit a record of conveyance. And then the state engineer also keeps records on any other water rights related documents. So just to reiterate, we are solely dependent on the Division of Water Rights for updating our records on the title professionals and the water right owners informing us what they are doing with their water rights. And as you can imagine, over time, if these records aren't maintained, there's lots of discrepancies between the two. So who can update water right information? Well, the owner can update only if all the deeds conveyed have the actual water right number specified in them. If there's general wording in there of this land and all appurtenant water rights, or X and X tract of land and all water rights pertaining to, that doesn't count. It has to actually specify the specific water right number that is being conveyed along with that land deed. If they don't specify that water right, then you have to have a professional help you submit all the documents, which would be an attorney, a professional engineer, title insurance providers, and professional land surveyors. And the records are updated through a report of conveyance, or as we typically call them around here, a ROC. One ROC has to be filled out for each water right to be updated. So if you purchase a piece of property that has 5 water rights on it, you have to have one water right for each ROC. So you'd actually submit 5 ROCs to the division. And the ROC has to show the change of ownership beginning with the owner on the division records clear up to the new owner of the property. So if this is a water right that was originally filed in 1900 and no one had ever updated title on it because it was always in the family, and the land had changed hands 5 different times to when now that you are the new owner, you will have to show a chain of title showing from the original applicant up through, showing the title transfer through those 5 different individuals all the way up to yourself, which sometimes can be a little challenging, which is why we always recommend the help of title professionals. And then the ROC will show the division who the current owner is. This is just a picture of what the report of conveyance actually looks like. This is a 100% form, and then this is a what do we call a portion form. So there's 2 forms, 100% form and a portion form. And just like the name implies, if you are updating title on 100% interest of that water right, you would use the 100% interest form. And if you were only updating on a portion of a water right, you'd use the portion form. An example of a portion form would be you bought a water right that has multiple owners on it, and your interest in that water right, let's say it's a 5-acre irrigation water right, and you purchased a part of that water right that was good for 1/4 of an acre of irrigation. So using the portion form, you would update showing that you are now the owner of interest of 1/4 acre out of that 5 acres of irrigation. So if you are updating by appurtenance, you are required to show us a map. And some of here's all the things that we ask for on the map. We want the section, township, and range on there so we can spatially locate it in the world. We want a section corner, the nearest section corner on the map. Again, that's just to help us locate it. We want the water right number on there so we know exactly what water right we are updating on. A north arrow, again, so we can just align the map in the real world. Want the scale on there, the parcels that you are updating on, and the acreage or uses on each parcel that you are getting ownership of. And then legends We'd like a legend on there because, a map without a legend most of the time is just a pretty picture. If we can't tell what it's trying to show us, then it's not very useful, and we'll be calling you and asking you for clarifications and trying to get more information from you. And so just one more thing on these maps is, in the world of title and records and conveyances, the old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words is especially true. As you can imagine, these chains of titles can get fairly long and can get complicated, with properties being divided up and interests being moved around. So a clearly shown map, a clearly drawn map showing us exactly what is being updated on and exactly what you're trying to convey is very helpful. Now we're going to move over to land and water deed addendums. So according to Utah Code 7338, and this will be the only piece of code I read here, the state engineer shall consider a water rights addendum that is recorded and forwarded to the state engineer by a county recorder as a submitted report of water right conveyance under subsection 3. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that there is an addendum that can be added to a land deed that specifically addresses the water rights. It creates a dialogue between the buyer and the seller about what water rights are being conveyed with the land and which water rights are being withheld. It has to be submitted with a land deed or water deed, and we only accept addendums from the county recorder's office. So the land or water deed is filled out by the grantor and the grantees. They hammer out their deal. Then they send it to the county recorder's office for those deeds to be recorded. And if they include this deed addendum with it, then the county recorder will turn around and submit it to the state engineer's office, and we will update title to that water right according to the deed addendum. Yeah, so it has to be attached to a deed. All the grantors and the grantees have to sign it, so both parties, buyers and sellers, have to sign it because it has to show that it was a mutually agreed upon document. And we see this at the division as a win-win situation. What it does is it brings up the issues of water rights at the time of the purchasing of the property. So hopefully everything is transparent and everyone agrees on exactly what is and is not included on that property. And since it's to make it even easier for you, where we get it straight from the county recorder's office, we do not charge a filing fee from it or for it. So you get to save yourself anywhere from $40 to $150 in the updating of the title of your water right. And then the grantee, or the person that is receiving the water right, the new owner, they must keep a current mailing address with the Division of Water Rights. So we ask that when you fill out the deed addendums, you put your address on there, and then we will update our database with your current address. And we usually recommend that after these have been recorded, that people double check on our website to make sure that the address is correct. And if you move, there is a simple address change form that you can fill out and email to us, and we'll change that for you, and it doesn't even cost you a dime, just a little bit of time. So there are two water right addendums. There's the land deed and the water deed. So you just need to make sure that whichever type of deed you're filling out, you get the appropriate deed addendum to attach to it. Then just a few of the title takeaways here. So for reports of conveyance, The ROCs typically require proof professionals. We see a lot of the ROCs are for transfer by appurtenance, which requires the professionals to submit it and prepare it for you. Transfers by appurtenance require a map, and try and make that map as clear and transparent as you can. Simple transfers can be completed by the owner as long as the deeds list the water right number specifically. Competing ROCs are a title controversy, and the state engineer does not resolve that. If you have competing interest in a water right, that's something that you'll have to take and figure out on the court side to get that fixed and actually decide who has ownership in it. And then water rights are very much a buyer beware. It's personal property, just like anything else that's personal property. You should conduct your proper due diligence research into any water right before purchasing it. Just like you're buying a used car, you take it to a mechanic to have it looked over. You should do the same thing with your water rights. Have them looked over by someone who knows what to look for, the red flags. Not that anyone's out to get you, but just you always want to try and protect yourself. So please keep your ownership and contact information updated with the division. If you have any questions, we do have a large resource of videos online on our YouTube channel that they go into title information more in depth, go into the application process, the proof process more in depth. So feel free to take a look at those. And as always, you can call the Division of Water Rights directly and talk with a water rights professional and get your questions answered that way. Thanks.